And welcome into the program. This is Protect and Grow Chicagoland Retirement with Chicagoland's certified financial planning professional, Tim Stearns, CFP, founder at TJ Stearns, Inc., conveniently located in Arlington Heights and serving Chicagoland area savers and investors, formulating the plan, ladies and gentlemen, to help you protect and grow your wealth. Tim, we always appreciate the time on the program, providing those insights. And today, going to be talking about how to fill the need for income the day after, the year after, and for the decades after we retire and walk away from the paycheck.
Hey, Peter, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think a lot of people get lost in the minutia of how much should I have accumulated, when really, when it comes to retirement, number one, you stop being a saver and you start being a spender, right? So how am I going to do spending? Well, I need to have something that's going to throw off income, obviously, besides my Social Security or pension, whatever I have. So the whole idea here is how much income can I get off of the assets that I've saved up over my lifetime of working?
And we know we're going to need a paycheck the day after we retire. It's just that we don't have one. So our personal assets are there basically, Tim, as our employer or employees. They're the ones that are going to be generating that paycheck for us to supplement and to help the Social Security and our pension, if we're lucky enough to have one, cover our expenses. And how to do that sort of has remained an unaddressed issue, which is why we see the doubt and the worry, the concern of running out of money in retirement. But it's something that you there at TJ Stearns have done for the better part of your career, really focusing in on helping people to confidently make that transition.
I mean, we see so many people who come in here, especially baby boomers that are getting ready to retire. They're worried about how they're going to make it work. And they see their parents, well, they had pensions and they had all these different things. It's kind of a different era. It's not your dad or your mom's retirement anymore. So I see a lot of angst and anxiety about this. And by having a plan, it makes, it's proven that it makes a very much happier person that's retired.
In fact, even longer lifespans, as studies have shown, Tim. So not only happier and more content, but more time to enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why we will talk today about the makeup of the Protect and Grow written retirement income plan. And of course, as always, Tim Stearns CFP does make the offer that if you would like to structure your own custom specific individual Protect and Grow plan, all you need to do is pick up the phone and give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim Stearns, of course, author of Solving the Modern Retirement Riddle. A lot of the issues, the questions, the concerns are addressed in that book. But if you want specific customized solutions, an answer, and a written plan, that is the Protect and Grow written retirement income plan. And you can receive that or set up a time to review and evaluate your current plan and portfolio of investments by calling 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. So Tim, during the course of the program, we're going to be talking about a term probably pretty often, the income gap. And when it comes to this income gap, it's pretty important that we measure twice and cut once, like the old carpenter saying.
Right. And I would agree with that, because the last thing you want to do is be 80 years old and realize that you guessed wrong. So by having a plan and actually sitting down and getting down to brass tacks and doing it is so important, and making sure you have the right numbers. So I would tell anyone out there that's serious about retiring, give us a call, because what we'll do is we'll show you exactly how to do your budget and show you how to shore up that shortfall that you're going to have. Most people's Social Security, no matter what you're doing, doesn't cover everything. If you are, good for you, but most people, that's not the case. So I would ask people that are serious about it, that have over $500,000, to give us a call, and we'll be happy to get them an income allocation plan that they'll be worthy of their 25 to 30-year retirement that they're going to have.
Again, that number, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, as I was reading over some of the material you had put together, the show prep material, you were talking about cracks in the foundation. And I actually recently had a trip down to Myrtle Beach, and I was in the parking deck looking, and the pillars, the beams of the parking deck all the way down seemed to have a crack where they were separating from the deck itself, and sort of had me concerned and worried. I remembered back to that apartment collapse in Miami, maybe
Yeah.
about a decade or so ago. And I brought it to the attention of one of the hotel workers, and they said, yeah, they're aware, it's structurally sound. In fact, it's engineered that way. But point being that cracks in the foundation can leave things structurally unstable. And we talk about filling this income gap. That's exactly what we're trying to prevent for your financial structure in retirement.
Well, Peter, I'll go one step further and tell you that there's cracks underneath those cracks, right? That people don't even know about. All the different risks that go into it. It seems like the only risk a lot of people are familiar with is, market risk. And there's so many others that we've talked about ad nauseum on this show. Market risk, longevity risk, interest rate risk, et cetera. That I think people don't realize that there are cracks underneath there, and how are you going to shore it up? But by having a plan that's going to address each one of those.
Yeah, it's not just filling that gap and that need for income, Tim. Once we have done that, we need as much discretionary money left over to address those things you just mentioned: inflation, taxation, healthcare expenses, longevity. All of those are kind of the cracks beneath the cracks, as you've said. But you've also, on recent programs, and by recently, Tim, you and I were sort of celebrating before the program today. We've been doing this going on 8 years now. But over the course of the last year or so, you have been talking about the fact that right now is actually as good a time as you have really ever seen in your entire career to help to determine how much is needed to fill that crack or that income gap and leave ourselves as much discretionary money left over as possible.
Well, and what you're talking about, Peter, is that interest rates are so high that just like when people refinance mortgages, this is quite the opposite. This is where savers can actually benefit from high interest rates. So if you have an annuity, even over 5 years old, we are able to take a look at what your payouts are and that type of thing. I'd say about 99% of the ones that we're seeing that people are calling in about left and right, we're actually refinancing them and putting them into better vehicles that's going to, like you said, take away the onus on the discretionary income and give them more money, right, than they currently would have had.
It's about leverage. And if you
Right.
you want your dollars and your plan, the foundation of your financial well-being to stand the test of time, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to provide as much support and leverage as possible. And right now is a great time to look at that. Give a call if you would like to look it over. If you have any questions or concerns about how you plan to generate the paycheck and the income in retirement, 800-640-2256, the number to call. TJ Stearns and Tim Stearns, CFP, 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. Now, Tim, the way that we have saved toward retirement has been in the market, in investments. Once we've got our paycheck relatively stable and predictable, once we've got our emergency account in place, then we are taught to invest dollars, and the vast majority of Americans are using that 401k. But what we have seen over the past 30 years or so is that the 401k, while a good tool to make our way toward retirement, is actually a particularly vulnerable tool for our financial well-being once we are in retirement. Not maybe the best tool for that foundational structure.
Well, if you're talking about market volatility, that's one thing. The other thing is, how long do you know that money will last? You have a downturn of like 10 to 15%, or the average I saw for 2022 from the statements that people are bringing in is down negative 20%. How do you fill that back up, especially if you're done working? I mean, these are the things that we try to talk to people about, is that you can't act like it's a gambling structure, right? That you're at a casino with your retirement money. That if you saw your child doing that, you'd call them crazy. So make sure that you're not that person. By having a plan, you're going to actually ascertain how much risk am I taking? What is the reward if I make more money? It could be negligible, but if you lose 20%, that could be really detrimental to someone's retirement.
Yeah, I've actually heard kind of a story or a visualization, I guess more accurately, of somebody saying, okay, on day one of retirement, if you stack all of your money up on a table in front of you, and over the course of the next year or two, you were to double that number, or over the course of the next year or two, you were to lose half of that pile of cash, which one is going to make a bigger impact on all the years thereafter? And Tim, I think doubling the retirement savings probably would make people very much more confident, but might not alter lifestyle in
Right.
the same way that losing half of their retirement savings would.
Right. And that's why you want to make sure that you're not that person losing half of the money, because that it would just be devastating to someone's retirement. What do? Go back to work? Go live with family? No one wants to do that.
Yep.
So you need to make sure that you're being smart and get ahead of it and actually have a plan.
Now, Tim, the Protect and Grow Written Retirement Income Plan helps people to formulate the plan, to structure that foundation, to generate the income. And once we've done that part of it, now we can afford to continue to have investment assets that are exposed to both the risk of the market, but
Yep.
more importantly, the potential growth of the market to be those discretionary assets. In short, to summarize that, by doing that specific Protect and Grow written retirement income plan, Tim, it actually leaves us more discretionary financial assets and flexibility.
That's correct. I read an article the other day that they say you should have 3 years of your bills off to the side in cash, according to, some people. Who's going to be able to do that? So why not set up, an annuity with an income allocation plan that your bills are going to be paid, rain or shine, and then let the market do its thing, because you are having the money to pay your bills.
I've heard something similar, Tim. And what always struck me about that comment is, okay, fair enough. Now we can weather an economic downturn if it happens for a year or two. But in the meantime, while that downturn isn't happening, that's 3 years worth of dollars that are sitting there essentially doing not much for us except for gathering dust. And isn't that in turn also putting our financial progress in jeopardy?
Right. We call it lazy money. I just was showing, we have an intern this summer, and I was showing him, we had a woman who came in here with over $300,000 sitting on the sidelines, and the amount of money she was making didn't come close to what inflation was. So these are, things that people need to revisit. Again, it's not your grandfather's retirement. It's not your dad's retirement. It's your retirement. You probably don't have a pension, and we need to figure out how to live from month to month with, comfort, and not being having huge retirement anxiety every month.
Once again, we are talking with Chicagoland's certified financial planning professional, Tim Stearns, CFP, author of Solving the Modern Retirement Riddle. If you would like your Protect and Grow written retirement income plan, or if you'd like a copy of that book, Solving the Modern Retirement Riddle, be one of the first 10 callers to today's program to 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, lots of tools and content and resources and information are also available on the newly revised website, tjstearns.com, tjstearns.com. That's the root website. You can find information on all kinds of things. But Tim, I also want to highlight the retirement tax bill calculator tool and website that you have made available at mvpcfp.com, mvpcfp.com. Can you talk about that retirement tax bill calculator and why that's such a valuable resource for savers and investors?
Yeah, Peter, we've give this analogy, but it's so true. If I walked up to you on the street and I asked you how much you have in retirement assets, it's easy. You tell me within 50 grand of exactly what you have, right? But if I asked you over your lifetime, what do you think ballpark figure is your tax bill? You look at me like I had three eyes, right? And the reason that it is because it's a moving target, and we don't know what required minimum distributions are going to look like. We don't know what, if I'm going to reinvest those required minimum distributions into something. And then obviously I'm going to hopefully leave a legacy to my family and what their tax bill is going to be. So what I did was we came up with this website, www.mvpcfp.com. So it's most valuable player, certified financial planner.com. mvpcfp.com. You can go on there. We can prepare a nice report that will tell you what your taxes will be when you're retired, what your taxes will be if you reinvest that money, and then lastly, what your legacy will be to your family. And at that point, you start to realize what is what. And you might want to look at doing Roth conversions. You might want to look at doing a Roth at work if you're still working. It really puts things into focus as to what, just like we have plans for our money, so does the IRS. And maybe we can get ahead of it and, pay your fair share, but not pay more than you should.
Again, that website, that resource, the calculator available at mvpcfp.com, mvpcfp.com. Go there, you enter in your information, you get the report, the numbers are generated right there in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. Just a great resource, food for thought. Now, to apply the strategies to realize that tax control, that management, and reduce the tax liability, you need to consult with your financial professional, tax professional, financial investment professional. And of course, you are welcome to give a call to Tim Stern, CFP, to get that conversation, more information on how to properly execute so you don't miss anything, so you don't overlook anything, so that you do it as efficiently as possible within what is allowed and without any negative impact that is unintended. So let's make sure that we do this properly, but view the numbers yourself. Go and take a look, because it really can be very eye-opening,
Yep.
staggering difference in what the IRS has planned for your retirement accounts versus what you could proactively manage those and do for that tax bill. mvpcfp.com, mvpcfp.com. Now, Tim, we've got this lump sum, we've got this nest egg, right? And I think a lot of people wonder, is it enough? What is my retirement number? How much is enough to retire? How much do I need? And you help them. That's what the Protect and Grow written retirement income plan is really all about, is sort of reverse engineering the process to figure out what that number is. Can you describe the process and maybe the math behind that?
Well, the process is we do everything but the kitchen sink to figure out what your retirement looks like. We're going to look at how much you have, how much it will throw off in income, more importantly, what your bills are, and what those bills look like, and get down to a brass tacks, like I said, where you know what the budget is, and you know exactly what you're getting from Social Security. We have people come in with their updated Social Security numbers with a budget, and then we're going to see what the shortfall is. Now, we have different funds that we can backfill that to make sure that the shortfall is taken care of, and that can be in different ways. But right now, for my money, I would put it in an annuity. Interest rates are the highest they've been in my career, and I've been in this industry 30 years. So you have these vehicles that will pay out for your lifetime and your spouse's guaranteed lifetime income. I don't see what's not to like about that. And then that way, if the market goes down, I don't have to, stockpile 3 years of cash to pay my bills. Rather, I can weather the storm through guaranteed money.
Tim, because we need our money to do any number of various things for us, but any one particular dollar or one particular location or investment option is limited in what it can accomplish effectively. Meaning we need growth, we need safety, we need liquidity, we need income, but any placement of our money achieves one of those and then limits the others, right? And that's why when we look at making this transition from having a paycheck and needing our dollars to provide growth to, in retirement now, not having a paycheck and needing our assets to produce income, we really need to look at a full scale shift and refocusing of our financial plan.
Well, I mean, Rome wasn't built in one day, as they say, right? So this is going to be a dynamic plan that's going to take into account everything: risk, performance, what your needs are, what your wants are. There's a difference between needs and wants, right? And so those are things that have to go in there. I love when I get a couple to come in, because then everyone's on the same page, right? And I don't I think it's very interesting to make sure that you both are planning on moving to Florida. You both are planning on sticking around here for the grandkids, what have you. These are all the different things that go in there. I mean, it's some of it's psychology, right? And we have to, weigh that out as to what your needs and wants are. But at the end of the day, building a plan that's dynamic because life comes at you pretty fast is paramount to having a good retirement.
Well, again, if you would like to structure that plan, if you would like to put that together, or even if you already have the baseline of a plan, but want to double check and see that no stone has been left unturned, no issue has been left unaddressed, and that there are no blind spots in the plan. Because that's what's going to worry us day to day throughout retirement is what have we not addressed? What do we not know? If you want to double check and make sure, pick up the phone, give Tim Stearns, CFP, a call at TJ Stearns Inc., 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. Tim, at what point in time may we need to have the conversation, not of how much is enough, but potentially of needs versus wants? So I know you try to structure your plans within somebody's situation, not to put limitations on spending, not to have restrictions on lifestyle. Is there a point where you do have to have kind of a differentiating conversation there?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously you need to figure out what exactly utilities are, groceries, that type of thing. Obviously, with this whole plan, you need to also engage with inflation, and inflation's always going to be there. We call it the silent thief. So when you see people saying, these groceries were $50 a year ago and now they're $100, those are things that need to be built into that, because life's going to come at you.
Tim, you mentioned in the show prep that the government is trying to help you liquidate your retirement account. They don't necessarily want to help you make it last as long as you need it. Talk to us about RMDs and how that is going to play into a retirement income plan.
Well, required minimum distributions, whether you like it or not, happen when you're 73 for current, people around that age right now. It's going to move to 75 by 2033. But that being said, right now we're worried about people that are going to need to take your money out. So when you take out that required minimum distribution, you have two choices, spend it or reinvest it. What I'm seeing with many of these people that by 73, they've been retired for a while, they don't necessarily need the money. So then they reinvest it, and guess what? You're paying taxes again. So one of the things that we've seen people do is to do a required minimum distribution rescue, we call it. And so what they're doing is taking that money and putting it into actually a life insurance policy. And within that life insurance policy is chronic care, or basically long-term care. And then we're also taking that money and speaking of leveraging it for a tax-free death benefit to the heirs. So it's kind of the best of both worlds that I'm seeing with people. We've been doing that for many years here, and I think it's worth at least kicking the tires for most people.
And Tim, even if you don't necessarily need an income at that point where the IRS steps in, they can require it. They do require that you pull it out of your retirement accounts. Talk to us about how these higher interest rates and payout rates may be particularly advantageous for those in the RMD phase, even if you don't necessarily need the income to live off of.
Well, you're going to need to satisfy your retirement, your required minimum distributions. So with having higher interest rates, it's going to pay out guaranteed amount of money that will satisfy that. And then you don't have to go into that discretionary account where you're in the markets. So these are another reason to do that and let the markets do its thing. Otherwise, you could be locking in losses, right? If the market's down on those other discretionary items. So the required minimum distribution income will satisfy that.
Tim, it's a situation right now where more is less, or as it comes to income payouts, because those rates are so high, that less assets, less lump sum, less of a deposit equals higher income, more income that we can live and survive off of, and maybe even surpass those RMD requirements so we don't have to liquidate dollars from other accounts. Because the way that works, we don't have to take that necessarily from each specific individual account. If one account is producing a higher leveraged income, that may help us preserve another.
That's correct. So if I can take all my money out of that annuity that's paying out at the largest rates that I've seen in my 30 years in the business, then yes, I can leave alone those other stock portfolios that maybe have fallen down during a certain year. These are things that we like to see for people, and that way you're withstanding a market pressure. It helps with all that.
Maximizing the available income on your portfolio is going to reduce and minimize the stress and the risk that you need to take with it. Also, being efficient with taxes, ladies and gentlemen, as effective as shooting for higher returns, but with far less risk. You get to keep more of your money. That is a return all in of itself. And so Tim Stearns, CFP, author of the book, Solving the Modern Retirement Riddle. Tim, I know you're very proud of that book and of the help and the assistance that you provide to proactive planning Chicagoland area savers and investors.
I think the book is put down to layman's terms and explains exactly what the modern retirement riddle is, which is taking a finite amount of money and making it last throughout a 30 to 35-year retirement, which is what we're seeing with longevity that in this day of age.
On this program, we've addressed that, ladies and gentlemen, the income gap, how to fill it, the risks to it. As always, making one big offer to help you get the plan in place to address the issues that are most important to you. You've got to have a plan in order to have that financial success. And at TJ Stearns, they help savers and investors better determine your outcome and make your goals your reality by having that protect and grow plan in place. So pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. 800-640-2256. First 10 callers with at least $1 million saved. You also receive a copy of that book, Solving the Modern Retirement Riddle. But Tim Stearns, the resource there at TJ Stearns Inc., they are there if you would like help and assistance and direction, ladies and gentlemen. If you're proactive planning, saving, investing, get a plan put together. The Protect and Grow Written Retirement Income Plan, a proprietary process there at TJ Stearns Inc. Pick up the phone, give a call now, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, always a pleasure having you here on the program. Thank you for sharing all of the information and the guidance that you do.
It's my pleasure, Peter.
Tune into Chicagoland certified financial planner Tim Stearns' full radio program and visit tjstearns.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Chicagoland Retirement. Be sure to subscribe.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature, not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs.